Right, so we get back to this Supra and most importantly the wiring on this damn thing. As you know, I absolutely adore wiring, so this part of the build is properly doing my head in. But as you know from the end of the last video, it was all down to the fuse box and the location of where it wants to sit, which is right where this inlet plenum and the throttle body wants to sit. So unfortunately that can't be moved because it's a fixed thing. So the fuse box could be located here, which is a bit more out of the way, but the wiring there is still going to be in the way of the intercooler piping once it goes down through this floor area. So there's only one thing for it, and that is to relocate the fuse box. It's not my ideal, but needs must. And whilst I'm doing the rest of the wiring anyway, it just sort of makes sense to get it all done at once and get it out of the way. So the fuse box is going to get relocated to the boot. I'm going to go from there. So the first things first is going to get some masking tape, and I'm going to write number 1 on 2 pieces of tape, cut a wire, and mask it up. So I know that wire 1 to wire 1, so it'll be wire 1 on the fuse box, wire 1 on this wire here. So when I extend it, I know that I need to put a wire between 1 and 1, and it'll be 2 and 2, 3 and 3, 4 and 4. So I know that I'm just extending wires as opposed to going at it like, oh shit, which wire was that? So let's just get on with it. There we go, there's absolutely no going back now. Could stay to that lot. So I've got a nice loom ending there, and the fuse box is now going to get relocated somewhere in the boot. So the logical place, there's a couple of spots really. I'll just push that in there. So I could either install it here in the corner so it's nice and out of the way. The wires coming out of that way, so they could tuck them all under the arch and bring them in through there. So that's one way of doing it. The other option is I could put it around here so it's lower in the bay, but then I would lose the use of a spare wheel if I ever wanted to keep the spare wheel. So the only other place would be up here in this area, and then the wires coming out are straight out into the underneath the seat and down the sills to the where they terminate in that front wheel well. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to go with it there. But this box, as you can see, the box is just a really awkward shape. So where them 2 clipping points are there for the original loom, I think I'm going to trim it off level with that. So if I trim it off level with the bottom of the box here, the fuse wires will all still be within inside it, and the big main earthing strap there will still be above this face, so it won't contact any of the bodywork underneath. So yeah, I think that's going to be my next go-to, is to try and figure out how to cut that off square all the way around, because as you can see, the flat face there is easy enough to cut, but once it gets around here, it's tapered. So to try and keep that level all the way through that cut, not quite sure how I'm going to do that, but I'll make it work. So what I'm going to do now, piece of wood, I'm going to wedge it in there, so I'm just going to cut this to the right size so that when I put this into the vise, I've got something to grip that box on so it doesn't just squash the box. So I'll do that and I'll show you what I mean. And there you go, it's a block of wood in there so that this is now clamped nice and solid, held with a vise, and it just takes the sponginess out of that box with nothing in between. So now I've got the nice square edge there, so this triangular part here I'm going to now try and cut as neatly as possible and follow the contour of the edge of this box. Not quite sure how it's going to go, but can only give it a go, can't we? So let's just get to it, I suppose. doesn't help that this saw blade's knackered. That is not helping me one bit. Right, now that's started with that, I'm going to have to carry on with this. There we go, that's that done. No going back now. I dread to think how much these are. So I've given it a bit of a deburr, cleaned it all up, so now all I need to do now is find a sheet of plastic that I can use to cut to the shape of that, so I can glue it to it basically. I don't quite know what I've got in here in terms of plastic, probably not a lot. I could use a little sheet of aluminium, I suppose, so long as it's non-conductive area, which I don't really want it to be conductive because aluminium is conductive, just in case something shorts, but it maybe needs must, I don't know. I'll have a look around, see what I can find, even if it's an old toolbox of some sort I can pull apart, but I'll have something. Well, I found this. So this is half of one of the ECU covers. If you remember many videos ago, I was making these. So that is just big enough that it'll cover that. So when you look at it from the inside, it's going to be completely covered with no holes. So I'm probably going to use that. Yeah, so after that, since that last little clip there, it's been a day now, a day or two, I can't remember. But yeah, since that last little clip, I've actually cut that bit of plastic to the right shape for the bottom of the fuse box holder there. So inside it's all nicely filleted in and glued into place. So that is now the base secured for the fuse box. So it all fits in there nicely. So I know that that's going to fit exactly as I want it to. And I tediously sat down the other day and basically stripped the ends off a couple of pieces of wire, counted the strands, measured the internal strands, and then found out what gauge wire all them wires were for that fuse box, which took me forever. So I've ordered some wire. So as you can see, there's a couple of reels there, and these are separate reels on the top. Basically, just went through, measured up what I needed, overestimated, because you always want to overestimate instead of underestimate, and then you don't have to order any more. But this is where this project sort of starts taking its toll on you, because I wanted to use that plenum, didn't realise you needed to move the fuse box, and now that wiring there has cost me an extra 98 quid. So it's all just little things like this that add up and absolutely rinse your pockets. So yeah, so I'm about to get on with it now. I'm about to go to the car, start stripping the ends of the wires, get the soldering iron out, start extending these wires, which is going to take forever. So yeah, I'm just going to have to crack on with it and get on with it, because if I don't, this project's never ever going to get finished. So just need to get to it. So anyway, let's go. So first things first, I need to get this rubber bung off here so that all the wires can be redirected through this gap here. Once it's through there, the wires are then going to go over the wheel arch on top of the wheel arch liner, following this original loom. So I'm going to go down here through a hole in the bulkhead, which I can't show you at the minute because I'm struggling to get in. So there's a hole there, so it's going to go in there, and it's going to flow down through follow the sill, so to speak, and then back up and into this gap here. So the wire is going to come up out of that corner and into the fuse box, where it's going to be relocated to right there. So I need to lay one wire, see how long I need it, and make it just a little bit longer just in case. So I need to do that now, and then I know how long every single cable needs to be. Tedious, I'm telling you. But the trouble I have with that is the fact that down the side of the car here, you can see I've not got a lot of space, so I can't open that door, so I can't feed anything through to do it at the minute. So I've got to do it all from inside of the car, which just makes it a bit of a nightmare. So I've estimated it's around about 4 meters that I need, but I'm going to give it 5 because I've got plenty of wire. Cut everything at 5 meters long, and then I should be golden, hopefully. So yeah, just going to get to it now and make a start. Cue the montage. Finally got it off without pulling any of the idents off. So now that makes my life a bit easier because I can get these wires opened up a little bit wider. Try and cut one of these, cut that tie wrap back off. There we go, getting the wire. There we go. So now got a bit more scope of movement. So I started off doing it as identing just the wire. I'm now going to just snip the ends off. I'm going to heat shrink over them. I'm going to solder the new wire on, and the ident is going to be the heat shrink over the joint. Makes my life a lot easier, and then I'm not doing two lots of heat shrink for every piece of wire because it's just taking forever. So I'm going to go start making out some bits of wire length, and we'll go from there. Right, so there we have it. That is all of the smaller gauge wires done, plus a couple of the little bit larger wires like this one here, this red and black one. So that's all them done. All I've got to do now is the same thing, but with a lot of these bigger gauge wires. So these are quite chunky, as you can see, and these two really big chunky ones here, these are just going to go through the wheel arch, through, back out, and where the starter motor is down there, that's where the big fat red cable from the battery is going to terminate to. So they're going to go directly to that. They would normally just go direct to the battery, which is in that position where I'm doing all the wiring at the minute. So they would normally be terminated down here, but because the battery is no longer there, I'm not going to run those big fat gauge cables all the way to the boot of the car when there's already one running down to here anyway. So I'll just link those wires to that and we should be good. Alright, it's making a start on these bigger gauge wires now. So as you can see, next number is 31. Make sure and keep note for my own sanity, because if I forget this and it goes to pot, then I will not be happy with myself. And these strippers are rubbish. They don't strip it off properly, which is really annoying me. So on this bit here, the wire is that thick that my soldering iron is having trouble getting enough heat into the joint, so I've actually crimped them together with a little bit of an aluminium ferrule and then blowtorched it and filled it all in with solder. So hopefully that'll do the trick. Well, it's sort of going to have to. I am actually going to go in the garage now. I've got a bit of brake line because those aluminium ferrules are only very, very short. I'm only just nipping at the end of it, so I've got a bit of brake line, so I'm thinking if them cables will go inside the copper of the brake line, I'm going to crimp it and then solder that. It should be a bit of a better joint than aluminium on copper, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to go grab some and see how that goes. So there you go, that seems to have done the trick. So I've just used a little bit of copper brake line there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bang on, if I can get it lid off, just a little bit of flux in the gaps there. Not that much, flipping heck. And then use my little blowtorch and get some solder into that as well as. And there we have it. So that's been crimped as well as filled with solder. So that is a good, nice, strong, solid joint. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm just going to crack on now and continue on with the rest. Right, so somewhere along the line I have miscalculated with my wires. So I've got one spare here which needs to be a thick gauge wire because there's actually 2 wires in that little bit of a loom, and I've got one left over there. So although I've got this left on my reel, it's just not quite enough. Obviously I can probably get 1 run out of it, but I won't get 2. So I've had to order some more, so that's not going to turn up for a day or 2, unfortunately, so I can't quite finish that bit. But Muggins here, whilst I was doing all the wiring, obviously I've idented the ends of the cables down here. As you can see, all of these new cables, they're all numbered. So as I was doing them, I did this end, but then at the other end of all that spaghetti, let me show you, all the wires that come over the top there, there's nothing on the ends of them, so that's going to get very confusing very quickly. So what I now have to do, grab the wire from the other end, trace it down to this end and stick an ident on this end so that I know what's what when I come to wire it up for that fucking end at fuse box. So I'll tell you what, talk about doing job twice. So I'm just going to use masking tape. I'm not going to do the whole heat shrink just yet because I don't need to, and I don't quite know the length of the cables as to where they're going to get cut, so I don't want to heat shrink it and then have to try and move the heat shrink down a cable because it just won't be good fun, that. So yeah, I'm going to get some masking tape out now, make some tabs at that end, and then start tracing them back. Fun, joys, yay. So since that last little clip, I've actually had a delivery of wire, so I can now carry on with my wiring. But unfortunately, I don't know why, but I sort of must have pressed red. So now I've got 2 fucking wires that are going to be red and the rest are black. So I have no idea what I did there, but it doesn't really matter. It's all going to be loom wrapped anyway, so you're not going to see it. I made a start just after that last little clip with putting some of the idents on these wires. So I've made a start. I've only got up to number 5 out of 39, I think it is. So I've got quite a few more to do yet. And I also sort of cocked up a little bit. Not a lot, but it's just make my life a bit harder, I should say. And that's just mainly to do with when I come to making out the other end. So as you can see, I've started here, started in this corner. I should have finished here. So what I should have done really was solder all the wires to this bit, get it into place in the back of the car, feed the loom through and bring it out there and just finish it here. Because now I've started there, I've got that to feed through the car, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to have to put all these wires through where I need it because it's nice and easy working in that corner. When I come to doing the fuse box at this end, it's all the way in there, so I can't really lean over the top of the car because it'll give me a bad back, and it's just in an awkward to get 2 spots. I can't kneel down anywhere here, so we're climbing in. So what I'm going to have to do is route the cable all the way through the car, find out where the cables are going to be cut basically to go into the fuse box, hold it really tightly with a basically with a tie wrap around the cables, and then unloom it all from the car so I've got a bit of play so I can pull it back to a nice comfortable position where I can do all the soldering. So yeah, little things that I should have thought of at the time of doing it, but I didn't, so I've got to do it the hard way now. So yeah, let's just get back to it. I'm going to finish off identing these at that end, and then I'm going to get soldering again with these new wires and get them put into place. So that's all of these wires here now been rerouted over that direction because they were over there before. So as I've been doing them, I've been throwing them to one side to know that they've been done. So as you come down this end now, every single one of these wires now has its related number to the end of that loom put on it. So the next job to do now is get these unwrapped and get the last bits of the wires soldered onto there. So this black cable here is going to be for these chunkier white cables here, which are going to terminate to the end of the starter motor at the base, which is like the end of the red line on the battery basically. So these aren't going all the way to the boot because there's just no point. They're going to go through this bulkhead here, over the wheel arch, and pop out underneath there and just go basically underneath where the inlet plenum is, just down there. You can't really see it at the moment, but it's behind the engine mount, just sort of through there. So that's all of those done now, minus the two big chunky pipe wires that don't really matter too much just at the minute. So the main quantity of the loom is finished, so I can just tidy this up a bit at this end here. Might have some left over of this that I can just take it through there and out of the way for the time being, and I'm going to get all that lot routed through the car, make up where it needs to go, tie wrap it as I go, and then I can start wiring it up at the other end, which I'm going to be honest, I'm not looking forward to, but needs must, light at the end of the tunnel and all that bollocks. So let's just get to it. So I've got some new crimps turned up for these bigger wires, so I can now crack on with those, but I'm not going to do them straight away. I'm going to get on with doing this loom and getting it put into place as to where I need it to fit, so I can get on with doing the relay box, this bit at the back end there. So as you can see, I've neatened it all up, tie wrapped it all together. So all I need to do now is just going to trim the tails off all these tie wraps. I've put quite a fair few on there. I've tie wrapped all of these in between on so that they don't slide up or down the loom, and yeah, so it's just a case now of trying to get inside here and wire everything through that point, because I just know that's going to be a pain in the backside because I can't open the door on the other side of the car, so I've literally got to get in here and do it all from the inside, which is going to be an absolute pain in the backside. So I've made a start just feeding the wire through that bulkhead, that hole there. So it's now going to sit over the top of the wheel, go down through the hole in the side of that wheel arch there and into the cabin. So I've already fed it through. It's now just a case of trying to climb in there and get on the end of it. And as you notice, we've got some cats that have started to decide to like to get in here and get comfortable, which I'm not too happy about, because I actually think, looking at that seat, one of them might have sprayed in here. I can't smell it, but I tell you what, I never catch a break. So anyway, there you go, you can see the cables that are coming through the hole there. So now it's just a case of pulling the rest of it through and going from there. But as you can see, this is not easy for me in here. I have a bad back as it is, and the last thing I want to do is agitate it. So move some stuff out of the way and we'll go from there. Right, so there we go, that's the wire all pulled through. Just need to tuck it under that bit of carpet behind this seat over here, and then just let me bring this chair forward without whacking me in the face, and then tuck it underneath there, bring it up from underneath the seat to where the fuse box is going to be terminated here, just so that I know I've got the correct amount of length before I start chopping cables. Because the last thing I want to do now is cut everything too bloody short. Long's alright, but short, nah. So let's just get to that bit. It's bloody hard work under here. Right, so I've removed the rear bucket seats there, the little bum pocket seat, so to speak. The rear bench is still in place, but just literally so that I can route the cable properly as it's going to be once it's finished. So the fuse box is going to be sitting here. Sorry, I'm a bit out of breath there after doing all that. So as you can see, I've still got plenty of length of cable left. So ideally now I want to mark out on here where to start cutting the cables, and then we can sort of go from there. I just want to make sure that at the front end here, right down here at the front end, I've left enough, yeah, there's enough cable slack there that I can tie it in to the inside of the underneath of the wing there. In fact, there's probably a bit too much, so I might pull a little bit more through, and I know for sure that everything's okay. It might just give me a bit more to play with that. I can always tuck it underneath that rear bench if I need to. Right. I've marked out where to cut the loom, so I've left myself plenty of space down there, a big like bit of a loop. There's also too much excess at the front there, so I've got plenty of scope to pull it through if I need to. So now what I'm going to do is unloom everything from inside there, try and create myself as much slack as possible so that when this cut is done I can pull it through and bring it into the boot area here where I can lean over the back. It just makes my life a lot easier than trying to do it where I'm currently stood. So hopefully I'll just be able to stand here and do it like I did at the front, which I should have done it that way to start with. Nothing's ever easy, is it? So let's just get to it. Right, everything untucked. As you can see now, the cut is here, not all the way in there where it's going to be a really big stretch for me to get into. It's just going to be nice and easy to get at now. So at least I know I've got a good position in which to crack on with this. So there's only one thing for it, and that's just to get going. I hate wiring. So first things I want to do is get these tie wraps cut off the loom here, get all them idents slid up into place so that when it comes to the fuse box it's just number to number. Keep it dead simple, because if you try and overcomplicate things, that's when it becomes complicated and you give up. So also once I've done that, I've got this grommet here, which is what locates on the original fuse box. As you remember, I modified the base, so this bit slots into there, so that creates a nice OEM looking finish, which will then be a little trunk that just goes off down the back of the seat there, and you won't see any exposed wires on this, hopefully. So without further ado, let's just get to it. I know I've said it 1,000 times, but I really do hate wiring. Right, so that's all of the big chunkier wires completed. I've got all the thinner wires to do now. So we are getting there, sort of like light at the end of the tunnel a little bit now. I'm just going to go make a brew because the back of my legs are killing. We're leaning over the back of this car. Don't forget this car is jacked up, so it's higher, so I'm like right leaning over. So yeah, I'm going to go make a brew and then I'll be back. Right, so I've had my brew now. I've got an hour before I got Pit Lad up from school to try and get as much of these wires done as possible. I don't think I'm going to have enough time to finish this bit today, but we should be closer than what I was before anyway, so just wait for soldering iron to warm up and then we can just get to it. And there we have it, all of them wires resoldered, all idented, every single one has a number corresponding to the one at the front, so every one that I soldered, I double checked the colour of the wire at the front end of the car just to make sure that I've not gotten anything wrong along the lines. So yeah, that is me done with this bloody fuse box now. It is currently 11 o'clock at night. My back's had enough from leaning over the back of this car, and also the backs of my legs are killing me, so I'm going to give it a break and I'll carry the video on hopefully tomorrow. So as of now, I'm going to bed. So I'll see you in the next little clip. So now that the fuse box is complete at the back of the car there, all I'm left with is this. So as you can see, I've still got these two wires that have not currently taken through to the back end of the car because I was just going to terminate them straight to the positive. But then I'm slightly changing things, and if I ever have an electrical fault down the line and I've changed something and I totally forget, then I'm just going to be kicking myself. So for now, I've just been down to Ribblesdale Autos in Preston. Give me 2 seconds, and I have just ordered myself a length of wire. So here it is. So I've got 10 meters worth of, I don't know what gauge it is, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's the equivalent cable of that. I think it's ever so slightly bigger just because if there's a voltage drop over the length of the car, it should be able to handle that quite well. So I'm now just going to get on with that. I did have some other cable. So this black cable here, as you can see, it's just, I'll show you in the back. I was a bit gutted because it needs to be terminated obviously to the fuse box here, which is going to sit there, and these are the wires, but they're currently under tension in the car. So once they get tucked away, they're going to be around about 1.5 foot short. So I was a bit miffed about that, so I couldn't quite use them. But I'm going to use that wire now, tie wrap it to my new wire, and then pull my new wire through using that. So it should be nice and easy going. So I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to get them soldered into place, and then that is me done with the wiring for this fuse box. I just need to get the fuse box bolted to the floor and get it in place, and then we're good to go from there. So I'm going to get on with that now, and then I'll show you once I've done it. So just measured up 50-50, so that wire is in a loop all the way around to the back of the car there. So now when I pull that wire through, it should pull this one in through it and route it into the same position as what I've got it routed at the minute. So I just need to try and do this as one person, because it's quite a thick cable. It doesn't always want to pull through gaps properly. So as you can see, it's all the way down the floor there. I need to get it in line and get pulling. And there we go, so that's pulled through to the back of the car. So instead of cutting it smack bang in the middle there, what I'm going to do is going to try and feed it through so it's a bit more even. So then when I do cut it, I'm not going to be left at this end with two lengths of like 1 metre and a bit. I'll be left with maybe 3 metres in length as a total run of cable. So I'm not just left over with bits of odds and sods of wire. I'll be left with a bit of wire that I should be able to use later on if I need it. So I'm going to do that, and then we should be good to rock and roll, really. Boy, it's cold under here today, really cold. So the best way in which to do that is to basically just solder these two ends to where they correspond to, pull the wires all the way through, and then when I cut the loop off at the other end, I'll have a longer piece of wire basically than two shorter cut ends, if you know what I mean. You'll see what I mean when I've finished this little bit. So that's both of those soldered up and pulled through somewhat into place. I need to pull them through a little bit more, and yeah, I'm good to go. So like I was saying, this end was the looped end of the wire, so that's what's left over. So instead of having two ends cut, I've now just got one nice leftover bit of cable that can be used for something else now if I need to. Trying not to waste it, because obviously it's money at the end of the day for me. So if I've got some I can use somewhere else, I might as well do. So next job is to get these ends terminated to these two on the fuse box, and then they are literally the last two wires for this. So there is light at the end of that tunnel. So now that's those last two cables done. You cannot believe just how happy I am that I've finished this. I've hated every minute of it. But the next job to do is the fuse box holder itself, the actual base for it. I just put the rear bench back up just so that I can make sure I've got enough space for it. So where it is there, I am pretty happy with. So I'm just going to make sure I've got plenty of wiggle room. Might just locate it about there. So I've got a hole here that I can pick up on, and I'm going to drill through there to make a new hole. So I'm going to drill through, get some riv nuts, get them installed, and then that's them pretty much permanently installed, and then I can dump the relay box, fuse box, whatever you want to call it, inside of that, and tick this box as done and complete. So I've just dumped the rear bumper back up on here because it was just tucked underneath the car for the time being. So as you can see, fuse boxes through there, so I'm just going to make sure that when I drill them, I'm not going to be drilling into anything underneath, because the last thing I want to do is puncture basically one of my fuel lines or something like that before I've even started. So I'm just going to climb under now, have a quick look, make sure we're safe to drill, and then drill. And as it happens, underneath here, once I've climbed underneath, that red bung there is literally underneath the fuse box. So all of this area here is that fuse box, and look what's in the way. Yay, just what I needed. So they are within sort of 5 milli of the bottom of the car there, so I'm pretty sure where I'm going to drill for my riv nuts is going to be smack bang where them fucking fuel pipes are and the brake lines are. So what I might do, I might undo this bracket, drop the brake lines down, and then do the riv nut in and put it back. Tell you, nothing's ever just straightforward. So after having a look from the underside, obviously everything was to this side of that red bung. So underneath here, I'm pretty sure that that bulge there is where that fuel line mount is spot welded. So luckily for me, when I install this where I want it to be, that hole is well over the side of the bung, and this one is well outside of the fuel lines. over here, everything sort of tracked across here, so this one will just miss it. These will be well out of the way, so I'm quite happy now just to go ahead, mark them and get them drilled. And there we go. So I just went with some little pilot holes to start with. So as you can see, I've just missed the fuel pipes, so we're not too bad there. So I'm going to go now get some riv nuts and get them installed. So yeah, all fun and games this, you know. Not good when you're 40 now, rolling around on a cold floor. Right, so I've opened up the holes to full size for the riv nuts to go in. Now unfortunately my tiger seal's fully gone off, so I've had to pop an hole inside a tube so I can get some. So I'm going to tiger seal just a little bit of a bead around that nilled edge of the riv nut there, just so that it creates a seal in here so there's no water going to be getting in, and it also helps as a rust prevention from that freshly cut hole. So I'll do that and I'll get them squeezed in. And there we have it. That is the fuse box fully mounted into its final position. All I've got to do now is sort out the rubber grommet that goes into the box here. There's also this little plastic O-ringy retaining clip that goes around all of that loom, which holds it all together and also slots into that place there too. So I'm going to leave that there for now so I know where it is. But for now, I'm calling it quits. So that's the end of this video. It's taken me a long time, that I'm not going to lie. In total, with the amount of time I get to work on the car, since starting that wiring to finishing it has been nearly a week, full 7 days. So that's why this project is taking me so long to get it completed. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video. And if you're watching from a Supra perspective and you've always wanted to put your fuse box in the boot, that's how you go about doing it. There are a few other small jobs I need to do, mainly the loom wrap to go on it, which I'm not going to do through the cabin because there's just no point. The only place I am going to do it, I'm going to loom wrap this corner here so that it ties in with the rest of it so it doesn't look untidy, and I will loom wrap this part here, which is going to be going underneath the wheel arch liner along with that other loom there, just to make things a lot neater and tidier. But for now, that is it. So I hope you've enjoyed the video and I will see you in the next one. See you soon. Bye.